guys, it's Linda Winter. I have another Winter Designs project and a new template for you. Okay, so this has been around forever, but I want to give you my little twist on how you can make it faster, easier, better, and even healthier. So healthier is a good deal. And then also, these are great for you to make and sell. Great for you to make and give, of course. Everything that we make, we want to give away, but why not make some money too? So I'll give you some secrets and some tricks and tips and things that maybe are a little bit different than what you've seen out there. We're going to use a new template. This guy here, of course, it has the no slip backing. This is my microwave bag. Now we're going to do for this video popcorn, not corn. I'm going to show you that in another video. That'll be for potatoes and corn and bread and those kinds of things. But we're going to do popcorn. This is the popcorn that you buy that is healthier. It doesn't have any of the chemicals, doesn't have any of the preservatives. You know, you can buy this in the jar like I have here. This is from, I don't know, Walmart maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe Target. But this you can buy like this, you can buy it in the bags, but this doesn't have any additives. It doesn't have the oil, it doesn't have preservatives to make it last longer. So it's going to be healthier for you. You can then add your seasonings and those kinds of things. But this right here, this bag full, I just popped a little while ago, and it was a half of a cup. And look, I mean, it's full. It's full. You can see how full that is. You can also see that I boxed the bottom. Boxing the bottom means that when it's in the microwave, it's going to be able to stand up as you go. Now, I did this sample here, and I made a bunch of them, but this one was the first one I put in the microwave, and I did 2 inches. We're going to do it a little bit further down so that if you do end up stuffing in more than a half a cup, we're supposed to do half a cup. If you do half a cup, it's going to start popping out of there. So I'll show you how we can measure with the template and a few other tools too for that measurement there. And then I'll show you how to do the boxed bottoms. So we're going to use the microwave bag. This is the microwave bag. It's 11 by 12 inches. You can do it vertically like I've done here, but you can also do it horizontally. So if you want it to go this way and have that opening, imagine this is flat and have the opening here, so it's longer this way than taller this way. So horizontally versus vertically, you're welcome to do that too. So this template we're going to use to make the bag. Then this template here, this is one of my box it, square it, place it templates. I'm going to have this on the website as part of a bundle. So you can buy this by itself, you can buy these two, and then this guy is for the strap. When you're taking this out of the microwave, it's hot. And if you've ever taken anything out of the microwave and you've got it in your hands, you know that's crazy. So this little guy here, that's done with the 2x5. This little 2x5, I'll have all 3 of these. You can buy this right now as part of my Scrappy Happy, but I'll sell this separately. This you can buy as part of my box it, square it, place it templates. There's 5 of them, but I've already made these available separately, and lots of you have been buying 1 or 2 sizes. 1.5 inch versus 3.5 inches. This 1.5 inch from here to here, of course you got your seam allowance, that gives me a 3 inch finished. So that's what I'm getting with this guy here. But I'll have it available as a set. You don't have to use any of these templates. You can just do what I'm showing you and cut with whatever ruler, with whatever paper template, and I'm going to say good luck because, you know, the consistency issue. So what do I mean by that? When I go to cut, I want to have 2 fabrics. We're going to use this on the fold, and I don't have fold here or here because, again, you may choose this way or you may choose this way. I've already cut my lining, but you honestly could cut the lining and the outer fabrics at the same time because there's no thickness. What makes this different from the corn, from the potatoes, 1, the boxed bottom, 2, no batting. We don't want any batting in here. We don't want that to, you know, inhibit or, inhibit, I guess, the popcorn itself. The batting is going to be great for corn, for baked potatoes. Let me pull this over and show you. I've got 3 baked potatoes in here. There's batting in here, and we want that batting because the batting is going to help with the steam. And I'll be talking in the video, when I do the video on that for you, you take a look at that. I'll be talking about the do's and don'ts. You notice too, I've got 2 sets of directions. These will be on my website. How to use it for popcorn, how to use it for, this is for potatoes and for corn. You can see for the pictures there, what's there. So there'll be directions that you can see as well. So these guys here will be on my website. So again, because we don't have any batting, we could cut both of these out. I've already cut the one, so I'm going to place this along the fold. Now, directional fabric versus non-directional fabric, because we're putting a fold here. If you're doing a directional fabric, then this would be correct and this would be upside down. If you wanted to do that, you could put a seam down here, but we want to limit the amount of seams inside. The title of this video is with no raw edges. So popcorn bag with no raw edges, potato bag with no raw edges. The no raw edges is a big deal when you're putting food inside of here. When we get this done, then I'll show you and we'll talk more about the raw edges versus the finished edges. If you do a seam down here, then you've got to treat it differently. So I would choose to use a fabric that doesn't have a direction, or just say, okay, the front is going to be in the right direction and the back side is not going to be in the right direction. All right, so I've folded my fabric in half. I've made it a little bit larger than what I need. The edge of the template is going to go right along the fold. Because it's the no slip backing and my gray material is the newest no slip backing, the gray on the back here, this stuff is amazing. No slipping, no kidding. You're going to get exactly what it is that you want to get. Look up here. Do you see how I just barely, I'm looking up here, I just barely have enough fabric. If I were making these and really being a perfectionist, you guys know that I'm not, I would actually, because I've got plenty of fabric here, I would fold this over so I have a little bit more. But it's right along that edge, so I'm good with that. Okay, I'm a lefty. So I'm going to be starting to cut on the left side. I'm going to turn the template, and remember that no slip backing is what allows me to get perfection. If you use an acrylic ruler to cut this, you know, no slipping, no kidding is what you get here. The acrylic, who knows? So I'm going to cut along here. Right-handers, you would cut here and then cut here. So I'm going to place my hand on here, and you can use a number of rotary cutters with this. What you want to make sure is when you're going along the edge, that there's nothing that inhibits right here. So you can see there's plenty of room here. I'm going to go ahead and cut. We're going to turn that template as we go. And I'm going to cut, and I'm going to turn that template as we go. And again, if I didn't cut those two layers already, the fold here, then I would have cut my outside and my inside, my outer fabric and my lining fabric. So we've got our two pieces cut. These guys here, I'm going to place right sides together. I want to go ahead and cut the other piece of fabric that we need now for all of the project to be finished. You notice this fabric here, you can use muslin, you can use cotton, you can use a broadcloth. What did I use? One of my favorite materials, pillowcases. Sheets and pillowcases, anything recycled. There's a couple reasons why I like them. One, it's recycled, so it's good for the environment. Two, it's been washed. I want you to wash your fabrics before you use these, because this is going to get at some point to the point where you want to wash it. If I wash it and I didn't wash the fabric beforehand, it might shrink. This fabric might shrink differently than this, and you might get some puckers. If you're going to make these to sell especially, then wash your fabrics. The other thing too is if you're going to make these to sell, then if you're in an area in the country where it works to advertise, these are all 100% recyclable materials. There are parts of the country where that's a bonus. That's a big deal to be able to say made from recyclable materials. Nothing was wasted, nothing was brand new. That works to your advantage in some parts of the country and not. I want to move these out of the way, but I want to pull them over. When we're doing for the other video, popcorn, corn, those kinds of things, did you notice that I had over here pretzels? Why? Because bread. And you can do those frozen pretzels, and you can do other things in here too. So these fabrics, there's so many options. And you notice too that I've done some channel stitching. This is a new set. I just had the rulers, and where did I put them? This is right underneath. This is a new set of rulers that I have. If you watched any of the videos from Darla, Darla talked about stitching and using a guide rather than your sewing machine. This guy here, as you stitch, your foot basically has 1/2 inch that goes along the edge. I can stitch consistently. This is a 1.5 by 10. It's hard to see. There's a 1 1/4 by 10, and here's a 1 inch by 10. These are great, and I'll do a little bit of stitching for you when we do this microwave bag. You can see all of this has been stitched, but I'll do a little bit for you when we do that video so you can see how these work. And I'll have another video coming on these too, so you can see how important these are. The 10 inch I thought was too short, and Darla said, no, it's the perfect length for your sewing machine tables. Most sewing machine tables aren't huge. Not everybody has their sewing machine sitting in a table, so having this and you just scoot it as you go is really perfect. Okay, so back to this material. So I talked about recyclable material. You don't have to do that. You can go to your fabric stash and you can use whatever fabric you want. What I like is a lighter color fabric so you can see inside. We don't really need to see our popcorn inside so much because we're going to be listening to our popcorn pop. I mentioned before that our fabrics, so we want to make sure that we've washed our fabrics. I also want you to think about with your fabrics of not using any fabric that has metallic in it. We need to be 100% cotton. I had the pretzel fabric, those are flannels. Flannels are 100% cotton, but flannel stretches a little bit. So if you're going to be zipping these out and you're newer to sewing, flannel stretches some, so you may find that you get puckers. So 100% quilting cotton fabric, the 100% no metallic is going to be the way to go. You notice I'm using pins. You can use clips or pins, totally up to you. We're going to be stitching around our edges. When I get over to this side, I'm going to put a pin, and it really doesn't matter where, somewhere along that side that you have it. We just don't want to have it on an end. So that's going to tell me that this is where I'm going to be turning. But I mentioned that I want to cut my other pieces, so I'm going to cut my strap. This is the 2x5. You can make any length, any size you want. What I don't want is a huge strap in the microwave. This is already pretty big to fit in your microwave anyway. So if we had a long strap as it's spinning, and you're only going to use this in a microwave that spins, that rotates. So we don't want this to be a whole lot longer. So the 2x5 is the perfect size. And we'll make the strap for you too. Those directions that I have for you, they're going to give you all the details about the microwave, all the do's and don'ts, all the things to be safe. There's a part for you as a sewer, but then there's a part for whoever is using the bag when they pop it. And that may be something that you decide you want to cut out and give with the bag when you're giving this away. Or when you are selling these, you can print that out. You can even create a really cute card if you want to that gives kind of care and handling do's and don'ts of when you're doing things in the microwave. All right, I only need one layer and I don't want interfacing on any of this. Interfacing is a no-no. Same thing when you're washing. You don't want to use any fabric sizing. You don't want to use any fabric softener. You don't want any of those things because all of those things in the microwave, starch even, they're not a good thing. I'm going to get this out of the way, but I want you to see basically that's what I put in here. This is a 1/2 cup. I'm clearing my table because I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew this down. There is your 1/2 cup and we'll keep that aside later on. Let me get my corn out of the way. And we're going to get to the sewing machine. Okay, we're going to use this almost at the very end when we work on this bag. So I've got my strap, I've got my bag. It's super simple to do. Let's talk threads for a minute though, because the threads are just as important as the fabric. If we're doing a bag for potatoes, if we're doing it for corn, if we're doing it for the breads, then we'll be talking about batting, but we're not using any batting, so that doesn't matter. You can use Guterin thread, you can use Sewology thread. I have both of those on my website, so you can always find 100% cotton thread on my website. This is YLI, and you can see it's an older spool of thread, but it's also 100% cotton. So you want to find a thread that is 100% cotton. If you look at Gutermann, you'll see this coloration. When you go shopping for this, you'll see all the 100% cotton threads have this kind of a tan-ish color. And again, Sewology, I couldn't find my Sewology to show you for this. So, but Sewology, you can find it on my website. All right, so we've cut our strap, and what we want to do basically is we're going to fold this back, we're going to fold this back. We're not going to create a binding strap. We don't need all of that bulk. And then we're going to fold this over. So I've got 2 inches by 5 inches, but you can use whatever. Binding tape is not okay that you've bought the prepackaged because it's not 100% cotton. Again, you want to be thinking 100% cotton fabric, 100% cotton thread. So I'm going to fold this over. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. I'm going to use the stiletto, and this stiletto has this nice flat edge, and I can just kind of press this down rather than going to the iron. And We're going to be tucking that in right over here. So I don't know if you saw it kind of just went in and now it's going out a little bit. So it's a little bit wider, a little bit narrower, but that's going to be in the seam. So whatever way works for you to create this little strap, I just like having a tool that gives me exactly. It's just kind of a good starting point. And then we're going to fold this over again in half. We're going to line up those edges. And you can fold over one time or you can go right to the sewing machine and give it a press. I'm just going to do a little bit here. I'm going to flip this on the other side and make sure they're lined up evenly. And you can see how this is just a little bit wider of a strap and shorter than what you would normally think. Again, this is what we're looking for. Not a lot, but just something for me to get my fingers in when I pull this out of the microwave. We don't want to add any more to it. So at the sewing machine, I've got this ready and I've got this ready. These two guys are going to be the things that I'm going to be sewing. And if you are doing these as gifts, then do some assembly line cutting, and then assembly line sewing. So whichever way works for you. If you're making one first to see how it works for you and you want to tweak it a little bit, you know, the tweaking is going to come into where you want that fold. I already mentioned that for the popcorn, I want the fold a little bit further down. If you want to make these your own and you want to do something special, you know, before you start making these and selling these or giving them away, these are great gifts to do in bulk. Basically, I've just top stitched along the sides and down the edges because we're going to fold this over now and we're going to stitch that together too. That's going to be tucked inside and you'll see the process a little bit later as we get there. All right, so now we're going to grab this guy. We're basically just going to be stitching around. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, 3/8 seam allowance, whatever it is that you like, that you're comfortable with, it's up to you. I'm going to find my pin bowl and have that close by. And you can see right here my pin, that's telling me that's where I'm going to stop to leave my opening. And a 2 inch is pretty good, so I'm going to back stitch a little bit there. And I'm going to start right over, and you can see it's a little bit more than 2 inches. Totally up to you. This is going to be caught in the seam allowance when we're going to be stitching. I want to get my thread underneath so it doesn't catch. This is going to be flipped when we're sewing the edges together anyway, so I don't have to worry a whole lot about that. What's really nice about this project is if you're new to sewing or if you're a quilter and you've been doing some seriously tough stuff, this is a really quick get her done. No thinking, no work, no issues. It's really simple. You know, I like get her done projects, and this is a really fun get her done project. And again, create that little note that goes with it. Take the information that I'm providing for you and make a little note to go with it. Give a bag of the popcorn. Put it in a cute basket. You can even give those little popcorn tins that they have, or the popcorn baskets. You know, the Dollar Trees sell them, but they have some nice ones too. All right, we're going to trim off those corners because we're going to be turning this right sides out. So I'm going to trim. And again, this is not a real detailed project, so I'm not having to be exact about anything. We're just snipping these off, get them in the trash down below. We're going to turn right sides out. I love the stiletto as a turning tool. I had one that I made earlier over at the ironing board, and I didn't have my stiletto. and I used one of the other turning tools that I had over at the ironing board, and I came over and grabbed this thing because it just makes such a difference. I love that you all have embraced Phillips stilettos so much. I've had several of you call and tell me how much you love them. You know, the ones that are not, this one is the gloss. The ones that are not glossed, I can actually stick this inside and press on top. If it's glossed, you can't do that. Okay, so here I am at the corners, and you can see how good that is to press out that corner. We're going to go to the next corner. Now, this is the kind of project that I will tell you to take the time and press, because when you stitch these together, you want everything to line up easily and accurately. We're going to be sewing this with the right sides together, this project, but when we do the potato bag and the corn bag, we're going to be sewing wrong sides together. So even more important that we press well. Pressing well, you know, it's one of those things. I'm not a big fan of it, but boy, it makes such a difference when I don't do it. Okay, so what are we going to do? I popped out my 4 corners. Let's get that out of the way. If you're not going to press, then just kind of pull and pull and pull and pull. Pull those seams open. If you're going to press, you're going to do the same thing anyway. So this too, it just helps kind of get those open. But if you are going to be cheating and trying to do this without the iron, then that process that we've done all the way around, and you can see here, even though I pulled, it kind of goes right back to where it was. And then we can kind of finagle in our fingers. If you've done that, then you can take the stiletto and press with this. But I'm going to go to the ironing board. I'm going to press this and I'll come right back. What I'm doing is just pressing this so that I don't see white here and that I don't see red on the back. So, you know, again, this is just a get her done kind of project, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but those little things make a difference. I'll be right back. All right, so what have I done? I've pressed, and where my opening was, I turned that under. You basically are just pulling and you're turning that under so that it's even. Let me show you too my little iron. This little guy here, I've got next to my sewing machine area, and I've got the wool rectangular mat with one of the no-slip sheets underneath it. It makes a big difference to have it here rather than having to go all the way to my ironing station. If you don't have the space that I have, this little iron is just great to have right by your side. These are wonderful. You can pick them up in a bunch of different places. I used to find them, you know, at Tuesday Morning, but they're shut down. But you can find them online as well, and you can find them on my website. Okay, so remember here that we had 2 inches, and originally I was going to tell you to take this tool, which is 2 inches, and fold this so that this was even here and this was even here. So you can do that if you want to. I want it to be a little bit more. So I've got this where I could basically do a guesstimate, or I can grab this, which is 3.5 inches. So I'm going to use this, and I'm basically going to be folding this down and looking to see that this side is even with this. That's basically all we're using this tool for. And I'm looking down here and I'm looking down here, and I basically am just going to make sure that these are pretty even. That gives me a good start, and then I'm going to use my mat. I'm going to go ahead and press this in place a little bit, and I'm going to use my mat and look to see. I've got my line here, and down here I'm looking to make sure that that's even too. Okay, so we've done this. What we're going to do is just place a temporary, actually let's do a clip. Pins and clips are interchangeable, but there are times and places where one works better than another. I'm going to hold this in place here. And now what we're going to do, this is our outside, we're going to flip this up. All right, so what this is going to give me is a wider flap here, basically 1.5 inches more. I've got my seam allowance, but that was built in here too. So we're going to be a little bit further down. You can choose whatever size opening you want. I just like having tools that I'm already using for that. Okay, you can see I've folded this up, and I want to line all these edges up. I'm going to get rid of that clip. I'm going to get rid of this clip. And we're going to line this up so that everything is nice and consistent. We're going to be stitching around and stitching around. We'll turn this right sides out to do the boxed bottoms, believe it or not. Remember, my method is going to be no raw edges because we're going to have popcorn inside of here. I don't want to have any raw edges inside, because if I do use any kind of seasonings, I don't want that seasoning to get inside of here. Now, I talked about the do's and don'ts, and then I have a handout for you. It's going to tell you don't use oils, don't use butters. If you want to use a seasoning, you know, there are all kinds of popcorn seasonings that are out there. You can create your own even. So if you like, you know, salty and peppery and spicy, I had It's a Dilly. That was my favorite, and then they quit making it. Whatever it is that you like, you can actually put that inside in the popcorn too. But I choose to put it on afterwards, because what I like and what somebody else likes might be different. But we're not going to be putting anything in here, oil or anything else, and we don't want to have raw edges. So you'll see how we fix that. We're going to stitch along here. We're going to stitch along here. Basically, all we're doing is creating a finished seam side, and you can see right inside of there, that's the seam. I don't want to have raw edges. All right, so before we sew, we need to add our strap inside of here. Let's take a look at what we've got. Over here, I've got my finished edge. Over here, I've got my opening. And no, I don't. I have it over here. Sorry. Okay, can we start over? Yeah. All right, so before we sew this down, we want to add our strap, and we also want to acknowledge where that opening was. This is our opening right here. So we're going to be stitching this closed at the same time that we stitch this side together. Down below where this folded part was is where I'm going to add this. Now you can stitch this down beforehand if you like. I'm just basically placing it right past that fold. So you can add a pin, you can add a clip, you can do whatever it is. If you wanted to stitch this down first, totally up to you. I'm just going to add a pin right here to hold everything in place. And you can see even that pin, how that kind of creates a pucker, so we'll remove that before we get this down. We're going to be stitching this side, we're going to be stitching this side, then we'll be working on those box bottoms, not from the inside, but from the outside. So at the sewing machine, I'm going to actually, I think I'm going to start on this side from the bottom and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's going to give you a smaller amount of fabric inside. You can even use a little bit less than that if you want, but we want to back stitch here, and we're going to back stitch, especially at the top, because that's where that little fold is going to, the little flap is going to be folded over. All right. Now right here is where I can feel that bulk of that pocket. And my stiletto would have been really good to have right there, just to kind of hold everything down in place. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm just going to stitch down again, back and forth a little bit, because this is where we're going to have all that bulk. You're not going to be putting a ton of pressure, but you are going to be getting your popcorn in and out of here, so we do want to make sure that we've got plenty of stitching there for us. Okay, so my pin is on the other side, so when I get over here, I'm going to go ahead and reach underneath. I like to start at the bottom because I don't have all that bulk that's there. And I had moved my needle over a little bit, so I'm just going to not use the edge of my foot for this as much as I'm going to use the guide of the sewing machine needle. All right, I've removed the pin, and I'm just going to hold all of this in place. When we get to this strap, because we didn't stitch it down before, we're going to stitch back and forth, we're going to stitch back and forth. And this is where you could grab the stiletto if you wanted. I'm just going to hold everything down in place. We've got a lot of bulk, and it tends to want to move like it did on my first side, so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen to us. All right, and I would have back stitched, but my bobbin thread had broken. When Sylvester got on that machine on top, it created a little bit of an issue. Okay, so what have we done? We've gone ahead and we've sewn our pocket, basically, just a bag. And this bag could be done as is. I'm going to trim the threads. We're going to flip right sides out, and I'll show you how you could leave this bag just as is, but we're going to take one more more step just to go a little bit further. And again, the smaller seam allowance that we have there, trim off this excess because that's a raw edge. And I've talked about not having raw edges in here. We don't want to have those raw edges because that's where if there is going to be any food that you're not washing out on a regular basis, we don't want anything growing on those raw edges. And if you wanted to stitch right back on top of there, notice I'm trimming out a lot of the bulk, and you could stitch right on top of there if you wanted to, so that raw edge wasn't there. So totally up to you. All right, we're going to flip right sides out. And we'll take a look at, again, the bag as is right now that you could leave as it is. But I want to make it a little bit different. I'm pushing out those corners. You could take one of the hand mitts, any of my shorty oven mitt would be great. Put it inside of here and give it a really good press. Put it inside of here and give it a good press. We want this seam down here especially to be open. But I'm not going to do that for now. I'm just pushing this out. Let's take a look though. Here's our bag. All right, so we've got a popcorn bag with a handle that's just below. When I flip this over, popcorn goes inside. You could do the salt and those kinds of things. No oil, no butter, no liquids, none of that stuff, but you could do a dry seasoning if you wanted to. Again, I prefer to do it after so everybody gets to pick their own. We're going to flip this over, and again, this could be the popcorn bag as is. Lots of people do a bag just like this, and they've been using them forever and they work just fine. So you can see there's our bag. All right, I pop out the corners a little bit more, but what I want to do is the boxed corners. So we're going to do our boxed corners here just by pulling a little bit and just kind of wiggling. You can press that down if you want to. I would recommend that. We're going to be trimming that off with our rotary cutter in just a minute. Okay, so we're going to box our corners, and I'm going to use our box it, square it, place it template, the 1.5 and the 3.5. We're going to use right inside of here. That's going to give me a 3-inch before the seam allowances. I've got a seam allowance here, no seam allowance here. So when I place this along, I'm going to line this up to the edge, but I want to have this offset a little bit just to make up for that. It doesn't have to be exact, but that kind of, works here and here. What I'll do is make them consistent. So this guy here is going to give me a beautiful mitered corner, our boxed corner, because we've got the cut marks inside. You can see those marks right inside of there. And with our rotary cutter, we're going to cut in and we're going to cut in. If we were to use any other template, we'd have to be really careful to cut, and it wouldn't allow me to cut right in here. Our rotary cutter would stop right about here and would stop right about here. The design of this template is so that it goes to the corner almost. It may have a thread or 2 or 5, but you can easily trim those with your scissors. What this is going to do is eliminate the need to draw the fabric lines, folding the fabric with that triangle and then measuring the one side versus the other side. It gives us a consistency. And you have 10 different sizes with these. Okay, look where my hand is. It's out of the way of the blade. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, and I want to right inside of there. I'm going to put my hand on and I'm going to pull back. What that's going to do is release that blade, and now I'm going to go over to this side. I'll turn the template just a little bit to where it's a good position. And again, my hand, I've got my hand raised up. It's hard for you guys to see, but when I go to cut here, I'm going to push as far as I can, and then I'm going to put my hand down and I'm going to pull it out. What that's going to do is it gives me, you can see almost all of that cut. I've got a lot of fabric here, a lot of bulk, especially because of those seam allowances. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to trim the rest of it. This side and the other side are going to be consistent boxed corners, and it's going to make it a whole lot easier for me to finish my corners. All right, same thing over here. I'm lining up here and over here. I want to have that offset just a little bit. I'm going to reposition this so it's a good place for me, and I'm going to right inside there, put my hand on and pull back. Then I'm going to turn that a little bit, line it up again. And again, I'm looking at where I've cut, and then that's that right position there, so everything is lined up. I don't want to put my hand here. I don't want to put my hands here. I want to have this raised up. Underneath here, there's plenty of space for that rotary cutter to go in case I get really aggressive. I don't want to do any damage to me. And again, you can see, all that bulk that's right there, there's just a little bit that I didn't cut. So again, we're going through a whole lot of bulk. So I'm going to use my scissors, and then I'm just going to trim off those couple little threads that are there. All right, we're going to make our corners here. So we're going to reach inside. So I want to get this turned out. I want my lining and my outer fabrics to be consistent. And if we look at the way the template is designed, I'm going to change this so that it's not correct. Do you see that little part there? We want this side and this side to be exactly. When I line that up, it's going to give me a straight line to go across. You can put a clip in here if you want. And even when I did the back stitching right at the edge, we chopped off quite a bit. So that seam right there, that seam allowance may be a little bit loose. I mentioned the lining. I want to make sure the inside, that cream fabric, is not puckered or folded back. All right, I've got a very small seam allowance because this is right sides out. We're going to be turning this right sides in, and we're going to basically do a French seam for this box bottom. I'm going to back stitch here, and when I get to that bulk in the center, I'm going to back stitch there as well. It's not like the popcorn weighs a lot and is going to put a lot of stress on here, but I don't want to lose anything that I've done here. All right, we're going to do the next side, and again, I'm going to reach right inside. I'm going to pull that corner so that it's nice and pretty. I'm looking here, and I'm basically wanting to have that nice and straight and consistent. I peek inside to make sure that my lining is good as well. And do this in front of you so you can see what it is you're doing. And I'm just going to line everything up here. And again, I'm going to back stitch. Same as before, we're going to back stitch or just stitch over that seam that's there in the center. And if you want to use the stiletto to hold everything down, that works really well too. All right, we're going to flip this right sides in. So back at the table, and cut your threads, by the way. Those threads are going to pop through if you don't cut the threads. And if you do have an area where there's more bulk, you can trim that off too. I don't have any excess bulk here, but see those threads? So you can trim off anything that when we flip right sides out, you know, any loose threads, they're going to pop out. You can cut them off, no big deal, but I'd rather take care of it now. So get all of those threads cut. And then again, we're going to flip this so that we've got this inside out. Oh, by the way, there's our strap. Okay, so we've got our strap there. Okay, we're going to flip. And now what we want to do is basically do a French seam. So I've got a pretty finish here, but what I need to have is more like this, but it's going to be, instead of where we're seeing this, it's going to be the cream. So what I want to do here is just push really well out so that I know that when I go to stitch, I've got everything pressed out as much as possible. I'm just fingering that a little bit. We're going to do one side, stitching about 1/4 of an inch down, and then I'm going to flip over to the other side. And again, this is just a French seam, basically. It's a great way for you to finish off the inside of a bag. Now, I've back stitched here, and when I get to here, I'm just going to use my stiletto and kind of push that down. It's wanting to go backwards a little bit, so we're going to stitch, and I'll back stitch there a little bit. And back stitching there. Again, we're going to do the other side just as before. So I'm going to reach inside, push that out, give it a good finagling. And I like to work with this side up so that I know what's happening to that fabric, that seam there. Back stitch over that again. All right, let's take a look at our finished project. We're going to trim the threads. We're almost ready to put some popcorn in and go to popping. Grab your favorite movie or put on whatever series you're liking to watch right now and have some popcorn, glass of whatever it is you like to drink, and you're all set to go. Get rid of any excess threads that you might have. We're going to flip this outside, right sides out, and Monkey has joined us. You can see a little bit of Monkey there. Monkey was overhead earlier in the rafters that we have above the filming studio. So today we've had Monkey, Sylvester, Cat. Is that it? I think that's it for today. Okay, so let's see if I can show you this without Monkey wanting to get her her in here. Monkey likes to be kind of a star at some point. All right, I'm finagling a little bit. But you can see our box bottoms are basically going to be the same. Hey, Monkey. Hi, Monkey. You want to be a part of this too, huh? You don't like popcorn. All right, so my mom's dog loved popcorn, and so did my mom. That was one of those treats that she splurged on. Okay, so what we have here is a bag that opens. Hey, Monk. We have a bag that opens with the box bottom. There's not a whole lot of stability, so it is going to stand, but it's not going to stand all that well, especially with Monkey's tail knocking this over. When we go to use this in the microwave, remember we have washed this fabric beforehand. We have pre-washed. We haven't used any metallics. We haven't used spray starch. We haven't used any kind of a fusible. We haven't used an interfacing. We haven't used anything that is going to be artificial, anything that's going to be chemical. Microwavable stuff, no. None of that stuff is any good for the microwave. And none of it's good for us either. We're talking about putting food in here. And even the fabrics that I liked so much that are great for the snack bags and the sandwich bags that I use, we don't want to use that either. It's kind of a plasticky material that's going to melt in the microwave. So 100% cotton. 100% cotton thread, no batting in this at all. So you are ready to stick the half a cup of the popcorn inside of there. And again, I recommend not putting anything else in there. Flip this over. We're going to push those corners out. You can put this directly in the microwave if you want to, or you can put a bowl or a plate underneath. I had it just sitting in the microwave like this. And it's going to flop down basically like that as it spins, but as it starts to pop, it's going to come up and it'll start standing. So I did 2.5 minutes for this. Don't use the popcorn button. Don't use any pre-settings for this. What I'd like you to do is 3 minutes, but stand there. Do not leave. You want to stand there, and 2.5 minutes, you're going to start hearing it's not popping a whole lot anymore. And when you hear the pop of the kernels less and less and less and less, that's a great time for you to pull it out. We're not going to pull it out here. It's going to be standing tall and it's going to be hot, so we're going to pull it out with this. When you pull it out with that strap, you can see the popcorn, because it's got all of this folded over area. I don't have to worry about any of that popcorn popping out, and I don't have to worry about, when I'm pulling it out with the strap, about losing anything. So the strap makes all the difference there for you. Okay, so you're going to use the microwave bag template to make popcorn. You're going to be able to use the same template to do corn on the cob. You're going to be able to do the same thing with popcorn, with potatoes, and with bread and pretzels and all kinds of other stuff too. But right now we're just talking popcorn. Make sure you check out my other video that I have on this microwave bag for the potatoes and corn on the cob, and I will show you the difference. We're not going to do a box bottom. We're not going to just do the 2 pieces of fabric. We're going to do it so that you have great tasting potatoes that are fluffy and soft and moist, and the skin is so good, and all of those things. So microwave bag you can get on my website, microwave bag. I got a ton of microwave stuff. So if we type in, when we go to products and templates, we're going to go look at the products and templates, and then type in all the microwave bowl options that we have. So microwave bag, and as soon as we see that, it's the second one. Microwave bag, potatoes, corn, popcorn, more. So you can click on that and you'll see that I have this template available. I will have this template with the correct box bottom. That gives us a nice big bottom that holds a whole lot of popcorn. I'll have those two, and then I'll have it with this. This is my 2x5. So you can buy these 3 together. You can buy that by itself. You can buy those 2. You can buy these 2. It's up to you. When you buy all 3 of them, of course, you're going to get a better deal. So take a look at my other videos that I have. I've got 250 plus at this point, and we're filming on a more regular basis, trying to. So go look at all the other videos that I have for you as well, and have a lot of fun making this. Make these for friends. Put a nice basket together with some gourmet popcorn that is unpopped. So again, we don't want to have all the oil and all the chemicals and all that stuff from those prepackaged ones. We don't want to use that. But you could put a nice gift basket together with one of these and the directions for it. And again, I'll have directions on my website. This is going to tell you about microwaves. It'll talk about sergers. Sergers are not okay because the thread is not safe for the microwave. unless you swap out your thread and put on the 100% cotton thread. You can do bobbins and wind up 4 bobbins for your serger if you want to do that, but it's still giving you a little bit of a raw edge. So I like this style better. So you'll have directions that you'll find on my website, so you can look for those too. All right, so now that I've shown you how to make this popcorn bag, I want to answer a few questions that you might have. Okay, so how do we actually make popcorn in the microwave with this popcorn bag? Well, we've got the popcorn bag, and remember, it's just cotton fabric, 100% cotton, 100% cotton threads. I've got the Gutermann threads over here. I've got the Sewology. I've got, this is YLI, and then there's a Sewology that's also a Pima. These are all available on my website, but you can get them wherever you shop too. So it's one of those things. You've just got to make sure that your thread is 100% cotton. We also don't want to have metallics in our fabric, and we're not, for the popcorn bag, using the batting. Even if it is 100% cotton batting, no scrim. We don't want that. The potato bag, which I'm going to have a video for you on, be sure to check that out, because we will make it a little bit differently than this. But we are not going to use batting here. Why? I don't need any of that batting to make the popcorn pop better. If you think about how you normally pop popcorn, you've got that little bag that you buy at the store, and I'll show you one of those a little bit later on. I'm going to cut it open and show you what it looks like inside, because it's not so pleasing. So we don't want to do that. We want to create our own fresh, healthier popcorn and then add whatever it is you want to add. We're going to add afterwards. So once you've popped the popcorn, we're going to put it in a bowl, a plate, individual bowls, however you want to serve it, and then you add. I love I can't believe it's not butter, any of these butter sprays, and then I put whatever kind of seasonings on there that I like, but it's totally up to you if you want to use the real butter that you've heated up in the microwave as well, or on your stove. Totally up to you how you want to heat that up, and then put whatever seasonings. Of course, salt and pepper and those kinds of things, everybody likes their own, but they make different spices for popcorn, especially at the holidays and especially at the off-brand stores, the Ross and the TJ Maxx, and Tuesday Morning if they're still around in your neighborhood. Those places will have these little things as a kit. What I want you to think about doing is make a bag, give them some popcorn that's already bagged up in half-cup increments, and then add some of these seasonings, or maybe even make up your own. There, I'm sure, on the web, lots of resources out there to make up different recipes, but you can play with your own. You know the kind of seasonings and flavors you like. Tomato basil is one that I really like. Cilantro lime is another. You don't think about that for popcorn, but that's kind of a cool deal too. So these things go after. So we've got the bag, and this is the popcorn bag with the handle. I highly recommend that you use the little 2x5 template to make the handle. Why? This is going to be hot in the microwave after I popped it when this thing is full, so we're going to pull it out with this. So we've got the handle. We're going to take the half a cup, we're going to pour it inside of there, we're going to fold over the flap. This flap, I use the 2-inch here to be able to show you this. This one, I use the 3.5-inch here. I personally like the 3.5-inch just because it gives it more. I'm going to flip this over so you can see what I mean. And this one, it's all full, so you can see how much popcorn it fills up. And I've got some popcorn over there too. So this half a cup is going to fill a lot. So you can see how that flops over and gives you lots of surface coverage. So I don't have to worry about any of that popcorn popping out. This guy here, when I fold that over, we've got 2 inches, and most likely that will be enough. So when you do put it in the microwave, it's going to lay flat when you first have it in there. When you got it in there, it's going to be spinning. And remember, we're only using a microwave that spins. We're not using a microwave that does not spin. That's not safe. And I did 2.5 minutes for the popcorn that I have here, and there were many kernels that weren't popped. So I'm going to tell you to set the microwave for 3 inches and just stand by it and listen to the pops of the popcorn. And when you start hearing less and less and less, don't wait till you don't hear any at all, unless you like burned popcorn. But when you're hearing less and less and less, right before 3 minutes most likely, then you can take it out. And again, take it out with the handle. Dump it in a serving bowl. This one was completely full when I put all the popcorn in, so you might want to get a bigger bowl or individual plates or individual bowls for everybody to be able to serve themselves and to dish up whatever kind of seasonings they like. We do not want to add butter inside of here. We don't want to add oil. We don't want to add the sprays. We don't want to add, I'm going to say don't even add any of these. Why? If you add the butter, for sure, the butter is not going to end up on your popcorn. The butter is going to end up on the bag. You can wash it, but butter might stain. Remember, this is a pillowcase. This one I've got sheets that I used here. Whatever fabric you use, that butter is probably going to stain, and you're going to have a harder time getting it out. And we want people to use this again and again and again and not look like it's already been beat up after the first or second use. So the butter doesn't go inside of here. The oil doesn't go inside of here. The seasonings don't go inside of here. I highly recommend waiting and then spritz or pour or whatever, and then garnish however it is that you like. All right, I'm going to grab that popcorn bag that we are probably used to using, and I want to show you what that looks like open. So it doesn't matter what brand of popcorn that you get, most likely it's going to have other things: palm oil, salt, natural flavor, milk, rosemary extract, annatto extract, color, paprika extract for color, lactic acid, and it has milk in there too. That's kind of crazy to me. So all of those things, and you know there are preservatives in there that make this stuff last forever. This is going to be pretty greasy. This is brand new. If I opened up one that I really had in my shelf, it would be too disgusting to show. But look inside of there. Ugh, that does not look appetizing to me at all. All of this stuff that's in there, it just can't be good for your body. It can't be healthy for you. And I just don't think it tastes real and natural anyway. You know, if you like the popcorn from the movie theaters, they have recipes out there, and they even have these that'll have movie theater popcorn flavors. So you can find those things. I love Parmesan cheese. You can put real Parmesan cheese if you want on there. They make the salts that are made just for popcorn. So you have lots of options. All right, guys, I am so excited to present this for you because popcorn is not one of those things we talk about much. We talk about potato bags a lot, but we don't really think about doing popcorn in the microwave. So I really hope you enjoy this, and stay tuned. Be sure to watch my popcorn versus my potato bag. This is a potato bag, and it doesn't have potatoes in it. That's why I did pretzels. It has croissants inside of there. I'll be showing you that. This one is a potato bag. I can put potatoes in there, but what do I have inside of there? I've got 4 ears of corn. I've got the corn in here loose. I'm going to show you in that video how to change this up, but I'm going to also show you some other veggies and some other types of potatoes, and I'm going to show you how to make that bag because it's a little bit different. I shouldn't say a little. It's a lot different than the popcorn bag. So thanks for watching. winterdesigns.com. You can go find this by searching for microwave bag, and you'll be able to see it. It's both for popcorn and it's for potatoes and corn and all of those goodies. So thanks for watching.